Well, welcome back everybody to the Haas playthrough then in Motorsport Manager and the Fire mod. And that's a nice sight, isn't it? It's one that I think we should enjoy seeing because I don't think it's going to last very long. Obviously, the sort of trends that I've generally seen in Motorsport Manager has returned this season, which is if you have a reliable car early on, you generally do very well. Obviously, the first race was a complete fluke and it was all the AI's mistakes that gave us a 1-2. But we got some decent points last time out, and I think that's more the kind of the result we should be going for. So I'd expect to see us drop back down that table, but obviously, hopefully, we can try and fight for 4th, 5th or 6th. Red Bull, Force India and Renault, the most likely teams to come up against us. So, and hopefully we'll see McLaren improve, because it would be truly awful if they went down to Formula 2, which is just a sort of thing of this mod. I've played a little bit. Well, I played quite a lot of a sort of non-YouTube playthrough. First one I've done in quite a while on Motorsport Manager. I'm really enjoying it. But the one thing I've really noticed with this mod is how mucked up the orders get. And what kind of strange drivers you get. At the moment in my career, in 2017, Bottas moved back to Williams and Mercedes decided to hire Rubens Barrichello as their second driver. And as a result, despite having the best car, they lost the constructors to Ferrari because Barrichello scored nowhere near enough points. So there's a lot of strange things that are going to happen as this career mode goes on. But hopefully McLaren don't go down, and I would hope to see Ferrari improve as well. Because Ferrari do have the second best car. It's not as if it's a car problem like McLaren is. So I'd expect to see them improve. Now, we do have the worst car, so the fact we're getting any points at all at the moment is a big, big bonus for later on in the season. But let's get on with today's episode then. And of course, we are pressing on as much as we can with this car. We got some new suspension finishing this time. Obviously, we're making a good amount of money at the moment. So we should be able to develop this car at a good rate. Because it's definitely behind where it should be. So we shall build a second suspension part. And we're going to want a boost, probably the biggest boost we can, and then obviously we can work on the reliability. I plan to just increase sort of the base rate of the car as much as we can. Obviously the engine and gearbox we're not doing too badly at, to be fair. So if we can improve the brakes, front wing, rear wing and suspension a couple of times each over the season, then I think that will put our base car in a better place for next year. Because the engine and gearbox, say, we're in good shape because of it. New working is magic, then our new designer, and hopefully he can bring some big performance gains to the car this season. At least that's the hope. Right, let's get on with reliability and such. So I'm going to switch over the reliability to the new suspension. Again, I don't think it'll be ready for next time, but we can give it a go. Performance will stay on the engine and gearbox at the moment to max them out, as I say, because I think they're not parts we're probably going to upgrade this season. We're going to concentrate on the rest of the car, so we'll max those out in performance, and then we can obviously concentrate on improving the performance of these other parts because they're going to get replaced. They're not really as important at the moment as, say, the gearbox and engine, which aren't going to be. So yeah, we got to rely on sort of the base traits of our car. Obviously, we put a lot of money in at the beginning of the season, and we're really good on tyre wear, improvability, and fuel efficiency. But it's just the base parts of the car that we need to really dig into early on in this season. I think we can, switch back to performance now. I think reliability shouldn't be as much of a factor, and if it is, our car is pretty reliable, so it shouldn't be. So we should benefit from that if the AI is still struggling this time round. Now suspension is actually higher than the suspension we've got already. We should really switch to the second suspension, so we should be able to get on that on the car, which will be good. And let's switch this rear wing to the engine, which actually needed a bit of work, so maybe for the last 3 days we'll go fully on reliability just to get those up as much as possible. Yeah, our sponsors are pretty good at the moment. 7th best, definitely one of our stronger areas. And obviously that's what's helping with our bank balance to enable us to put the car forward as quickly as we can. Right, we are ready for round number 3 then. So pit crew. I've never tried this. What if we just go to auto management? Okay, so we choose which mechanic is in charge. I wonder if that'll work. Let's try that for one race, because it also takes care of contracts. So it says. So if we've got a good chief mechanic, then hopefully that will work out and it'll be something off our back to worry about. Let's give it a go for one race and see how it does. Because I'm a little bit tired of having to manage this pit crew aspect of it. I like the aspect of having to hire the pit crew, but I feel that that kind of development in terms of game features could have been better used in the parts system and the way the factory and stuff works. But, you know, we got it now, so we'll go with it. So we got equal cars. They both always seem to think they have the better car, which is good news. Magnussen is still generally just about outperforming Leclerc, so we will give him the new suspension for now. That's made him very angry. Okay, so we might have to switch it back a bit. Let's give him the better engine. And once again, they both think they've got the better car again. Good. Right, as per usual, I shall get practice underway then and be back with you guys for qualifying. Okay, into qualifying we go then. A really good practice session. Well, the best that we could have. Basically, Magnussen got a 99% setup first time, which really helped. Just meant he could stay out there and get some practice in and get some knowledge gained for pretty much the whole session. But unfortunately, Leclerc and Ferrucci are holding us back because they're both just 4 on the feedback. So we really need to make sure we build the building as soon as we can that relates to improving drivers' feedback, because even with Magnussen running around for the entire session, we could only just max out the race trim and couldn't max out, well, couldn't even get level 1 in terms of qualifying. So we got no bonuses for qualifying, unfortunately. So we'll have to see how the cars do. I'm expecting a much tougher weekend this time round, as Auer goes first. Please tell me I got that right at last. You will let me know, but I'm sure it's Auer, as in hour, but sort of hour. Yeah? Please tell me I've got that right. Right. First laps are in then, and Leclerc, surprisingly, 3 tenths quicker than Magnussen, and there's some pretty competitive times. Lewis Hamilton is in a different league to everybody else, but Leclerc is just behind the Ferrari and Mercedes, which, again, I'm a bit stunned by. We shouldn't be doing this well with this car. I am wondering if it's a difficulty thing. So we're on -7 at the moment, which is what I've been running all the series on recently. And, you know, it's been such a struggle, these Motorsport Manager series, that I guess I just like to keep it on the difficulty we've been using and try and improve from there. But we might need to change it. We'll have a think about it. But first run's looking good then. Obviously, everybody else could have had a bad lap, but our qualifying pace just seems pretty great. And our aim was this season to get both cars into the top 10 on a regular basis, but our car performance just doesn't look like it should. Now, the only adverse thing from here is whether the fact that we put so much money into the car in the first place is actually something that's not picked up by that graph of rating the cars. It could be the case that the tyre wear and the tyre heating, the improvability and the fuel efficiency aren't actually factored into that graph, in which case we might have a great car, but because our parts haven't been developed, it doesn't think that we do. So that might be why, thinking about it, because we spent almost as much as we could on the car. So it's almost the best car we could have built. And I've always wondered why that didn't have much of an impact on the standings in terms of when the game rates the cars. So that could be why. It might just not factor in what you spent on the car. Leclerc does not improve. Magnussen doesn't improve either then. So they don't go quicker next time round. It means that Magnussen's actually bumped down to 12th, because there was a big old difference between our two drivers there of nearly half a second. But Leclerc incredibly stays 5th then. So best of the rest behind the Mercedes and the Ferraris. And definitely can have a good race for some points from there, I'm sure. So Leclerc looking good. Magnussen, I'm sure, can have a strong race. He had almost a perfect setup. And he has got the new engine. New suspension on the car. So we'll see how it goes in the race, shall we? So let's go race trim and push the limit. This is the best trait, by the way. I got this in my single player as well. I say single player. Whenever I say that, that's what I'll just say to reference the playthrough I'm doing on my own at the moment. But it just is the best bonus. It really is. Because you can just push the car so much harder, which is great. Right. I think we're going to continue on our trend this season of keeping the cars fully fueled and pushing for the majority of the race. Now, if we start on medium tyres, we can almost definitely do a one-stop. I'm just wondering, with Leclerc starting so far forward, whether we should be a bit more aggressive with him. But to be honest, if we hit the targets in terms of estimated laps, we could still do a one-stop on the mediums. So I think we'll start Leclerc on the super softs, and hopefully we can hold out for a one-stop on those. And Magnussen starting in 12th, I think it's a no-brainer to put him on the mediums and go as long as he can. Right, this is going to be a real judgment day, because I don't think reliability is going to be a big factor here. So it's definitely going to be all down to car performance. So we'll see if we really do have a car for regular points after this one. Right, and we are underway then for round number 3. Good start from Leclerc. He can't get in amongst the Ferrari and Mercedes, although he's just gone past Bottas into turn 1. Magnussen's made up a couple of places off the line, although he's now dropped back down to 10th. 9th, sorry, he's still making up places then. And Leclerc is still ahead of, actually Vettel's dropped back as well. So Leclerc is now up to 3rd as we go to neutral and high here for the first couple of laps. Just see how things settle out. But this is a cracking start from Leclerc. And if he can keep on this pace, then he's definitely in for some points today. Magnussen's done exactly what he needs to do. He's got ahead of all the medium tyre runners. And if he can stay there, then he's in prime position for this one-stop strategy if we have to two-stop on the super softs. So Leclerc coming under a bit of attack from Vettel now. And of course, we don't start with a starting charge this year, but it should recover very quickly. A lot of people have made a comment about why we don't recharge in the pit stops. That's something I called off very early in the Motorsport Manager vanilla game series, purely because I just don't think it's worth the risk, because it was breaking the car quite often, even when we only recharged 25%. I think we're going to have to go to conserve here, Leclerc, if we want the distance out of these tyres. And it's been pointed out to me that there is apparently a bug in the fact that the energy recovery cannot break now if you recharge it in the pits, which I've tested out in my single player game, and that's held true. So I'm really not a fan of using exploits, and the fact that our engine, that our recovery system recovers so quickly this year, I don't feel it's something that we need to do. So that's that explained. Hopefully that will stop your questions on that one. Not that I don't enjoy your questions, keep them coming, you know what I mean. That's just answering that for anybody that didn't read the comments. Okay, this has been a great start from Leclerc. He seems to be holding pace up here. He is falling away from Raikkonen, which would suggest that Vettel and Bottas behind are a little bit quicker, but they just can't find a way past on this windy track. And Magnussen definitely looks to have more speed than Hülkenberg ahead, but once again cannot find a route past him. Right, we're going to have to turn the engines down in a minute just to save the engine and gearbox a little bit, because they're not maxed out yet. And we want to get that fuel back in the positive so that we know we can stay I don't want to be fuel saving towards the end of the race. I'd rather get it done now and be able to stay on push for the rest of it. So we'll give the engine and gearbox a bit of respite, and we'll see what difference that makes to Leclerc. And we'll keep an eye on this boost if we need to defend from Vettel, because this will be very beneficial if we can stay ahead of this Ferrari and Mercedes, because it backs them into the pack and gives us a chance at a podium here. I've got a feeling that Vettel and Bottas, if they pit on a different lap, will be past us in a shot, but we're making a good gap to the main group. Ricciardo has just got past Auer, so Auer, Stroll and Hülkenberg, probably the cars we're racing here, if we feel that the Mercedes, Ferrari and Red Bull are quicker than us, which we probably do, if we judge the gap between ourselves and Raikkonen. But both cars in a good position here. Obviously both the Williams are on the soft tyre. Sorry if I keep coughing today. It's been very cold today. I've been out in the snowy conditions, and it seems to have affected my voice more than usual. I mean, it's always croaky, but I'm trying not to cough into the mic, I promise. Right, Bottas has got past Leclerc, which is to be expected. I expect Vettel to follow suit soon. There he goes. I don't feel I want to defend too hard from this. I feel we'll just let the Ferrari and Mercedes get away. Fifth is probably the maximum we can aim for, and I think it's going to be a pretty tough race with these two Williams and the Red Bull anyway. So we'll save that boost for probably when we come back out of the pits, because I've generally found it's good to save that up, because if you come back out of the pits on fresh tyres behind people who haven't pitted, the boost is the best way to get past them, because you quickly destroy your tyres if you get stuck behind people for too long. So I think we'll save those up for Leclerc. For Magnussen though, he's falling out of touch with the three cars ahead of him. They are all on quicker tyres, but I think we will use his boost to try and get a bit of distance once again between ourselves and these two Force Indias, who are once again fighting between themselves. They never seem to stop, even in a game form. They are battling hard, which is helping us out there. Probably used the boost a little bit earlier than I was hoping to, but I think that was purely just to keep ahead of them, because their tyres are going to start wearing a bit quicker than ours, especially Ocon. Perez might be a bit more of a challenge. Now Leclerc has got, I was going to say he's got Ricciardo on the back of him, but Ricciardo has made an early stop then, very early stop. So the tyre wear not too good on that Red Bull. Our tyre wear, on the other hand, is, you can see the improvement this season. We're almost on a par with Ferrari and a little bit behind Mercedes. Whereas Hülkenberg, Ocon and Ricciardo, who all started on Supersofts, have had to pit a lot earlier than us. So that's a good sign for our tyre life. We've hit that 10 lap target, which I think we should be able to take the mediums to the end now. So we will give that a go, and hopefully we can use that boost to get back past cars if we need to, because obviously we'll be missing a little bit of ultimate performance in terms of the mediums. And if it's going to have to be a two-stop, we can always throw on those Supersofts late on. Magnussen just under 50% with 11 laps gone, so he might be going a little bit short of what he needs, having started on the mediums on a full fuel tank, but he can always put the softs on to do a one-stop there. Right, out comes Leclerc. He's actually got no traffic at all, which is pretty good for him. So we're going to use the high fuel mode, and probably around this next corner will be the best time to use that boost and maximise these brand new medium tyres to hopefully stay ahead of both Williams when they pit. I think that's the aim. I think Mercedes and Ferraris are going to be very difficult. He's got out behind Ricciardo, but obviously Ricciardo's on the soft tyres, and I don't think he's going to be able to go to the end on those. So we should be okay on this one-stop strategy. It's a dreadful pit stop for... Oh no, it's not Vettel. I was thinking Magnussen was Leclerc there. That's not a good strategy for us. So yeah, Vettel did get out ahead. Ricciardo got out ahead. Raikkonen got out ahead, but Stroll, crucially, is behind. So 6th place is still on here, I think, and that should be what we're aiming for. Magnussen is going to have a much tougher battle with these Force Indias and the Williams, and Hülkenberg as well. But and we got Verstappen coming back through the field after a pretty poor qualifying as well, let's not forget. But he seems roughly on target now, and I think Magnussen can definitely do a one-stop. It's just whether we go to the soft tyres or the super softs. I think it's going to have to be the super softs, the softs, sorry, just for sort of belt and braces stuff. Once again, I'm going to keep his charge until he's pitted, just in case we need to get past some traffic. Leclerc has actually caught right back up to the back of Ricciardo, because Ricciardo is in that same position that he's stuck behind traffic. So we could use the opportune moment here, if we can find it, maybe out of this final corner, to try and get past the Red Bull while he's in traffic. He's going to have a go, Leclerc, down into turn 1. Ricciardo, renowned for his braking ability, manages to stay ahead. It was worth a little go, I think, there. Magnussen's got quite a bit of fuel to use, so I'm probably going to wait till he's pitted and then use it for the entirety of the rest of the race, as Verstappen goes past now. So Magnussen is losing positions here, unfortunately. Both Perez and Verstappen have now passed him, but he can hopefully attack a bit later on. I've got a feeling Perez is going to have to go onto the mediums. I think Verstappen might be on a similar strategy to us and go onto the soft tyres. So we should be able to attack these guys back, and people like Hulkenberg and Ocon have definitely got to stop again, so we're ahead of them on aggregate. So we'll just have to settle down now. Leclerc is still behind Ricciardo, following him in close tow, but Auer has pitted as well and is just behind us. So we've come back out ahead of the two Williams. Let's hope Kvyat and Van Dorn don't become a roadblock, because that could back us into the Williams here. Now, Magnussen, there's 13 laps to go. The soft tyres should easily cover this distance, but there is a chance, if we hold out a couple more laps, that we could go to the super softs and have a very attacking final stint. But all the time this is happening, we are losing time. So I think we will bring in Magnussen this time around, and we'll go to the soft tyres, just so we can be a bit more aggressive on them. And because everyone's pitted, Raikkonen's out, by the way, so that's an extra position to both our drivers. Is he in the wall, or is it mechanical problems? He's in the garage, so it must be a mechanical problem, I would feel. And we'll use push for when we come back out of the pits. Yeah, I feel if we stayed out too long on those medium tyres, we'd lose too much track time. We're right at the end of the pit lane, which is good news. And he's back out ahead of Fernando Alonso then, which is good news, because we don't want to be stuck behind that McLaren. He's notoriously difficult to pass. We've got a big gap between ourselves and the main pack, though, so Magnussen has lost quite a bit of time. But let's use that 100% charge now, and hopefully that will close a good deal of that gap. In fact, yeah, the gap now down to 4.2. So took a couple of seconds back out of it. He's got plenty of fuel to use. He's got tyres that will easily go to the end, so hopefully he can attack himself back into that top 10. And I would expect Hulkenberg and Ocon to pit again. And good news for Leclerc. Sorry, I just need to get it out. Just needs to clear my throat. Good news for him is I think Vettel and Ricciardo are going to have to pit again as well. So I think this podium is still on here for Leclerc, because he's only 10 seconds behind Vettel. And if Vettel gets stuck behind that sort of double Williams, double Force India block, then he's going to find it very difficult to find his way back through to Leclerc. Right, we're going to have to go back to medium for a couple of laps with Charles, just to get some fuel back for the final push. Magnussen's got plenty left, and he can also use that overtake mode. I feel maybe once or twice if he needs to get past people. Right, we're coming back under pressure from the Williams drivers now, as Lance Stroll crashes, so that will help us out a bit. But we're just going to use this boost off the final corner just to make sure we don't get attacked by Auer in the Williams here. Ricciardo has made that stop then, and will be behind Magnussen even. So that puts Magnussen now into the top 10. But he's going to come under some pressure, I think, in the next couple of laps. We'll just go to conserve for a couple of laps with Magnussen, just to make sure the tyres go the distance. He's got enough rubber to defend later on in the stint. Similar with Leclerc, actually, because this was always going to be close as to whether he could do a one-stop, and his tyres have worn a little bit more than our Bottas and Hamilton. So now that we've got some fresh air and we're not under too much pressure from much quicker cars, this will be a good time to just make sure that we get this tyre life in and get them back under control. In fact, on both cars, I think I'm just going to go to back up for a couple of laps, just get them back down to temperature as quickly as possible, and then we can attack once again. I think Magnussen's got a good chance of attacking Perez and Verstappen later in this race. And I think Ocon's going to have to pit again, so that's another place. Ricciardo is around about 8 seconds behind, so it's going to take a lot for him to catch the back of this group. And he's currently stuck behind the wily fox in Fernando Alonso. So that's going to make it a lot more tricky for him to find his way through. Right, we've got a bit of fuel spare now with Leclerc, so we can go back to push on both cars. Leclerc, we're going to save the boost until he's in a place to attack somebody. Sebastian Vettel has made a second stop then, and that has promoted Leclerc to the podium for the moment. And Vettel's got a big challenge ahead. He's got to get past Perez and Auer and close a gap of around about 7 seconds, 8 seconds even, if he wants that podium back. So this is looking good for us at the moment. The engine is a little worried for Leclerc. I'm wondering if we maybe go back to neutral just in case that goes, but at the same time, we've got such a good points tally already. I think we just go for this and just hope everything holds out. His tyres are going to be close as well, but hopefully he can go the distance. Right, Magnussen, he's not really closing on Verstappen. He's kind of lapping at the same time, similar lap time, so we may as well use this boost down the main straight and see if we can get him closer and in a place to attack. As I say, we've probably got half a lap's worth of overtake to use on that fuel if we need to try and get past Verstappen. Now, Leclerc is the worry here. He's done 13 laps on these tyres. Needs to do another 5. On paper that should be okay, but I worry about his pace towards the end. But the top 4 are all in a very similar situation here. Vettel has just got past Perez then, so he's going to be coming. He's going to be coming for us. Magnussen has got past Verstappen. That's a great move, one that we desperately needed. Let's use that tiny little bit of boost just to make sure he doesn't attack us down the main straight. I'm going to have to try and get those tyres back under control again. Just get the temperatures down. So we'll go back up for a second. We'll stay on board Magnussen just to make sure he doesn't get overtaken again by Verstappen by doing so. Just need to get those temperatures down and then you can attack again, K-Mag, don't worry. Just keep it cool. Don't let him back pass. Right, neutral. Neutral and boost. Oh, it's close. You see, we're on the quicker tyres, so we need to make this gap now, because I've got a feeling Verstappen will come back at us later in the race. How's his engine and gearbox looking? Not brilliant. Went to the next long straight. When we get to the long straight, I might just use the overtake down it, just to see if we can increase this gap a little bit. Right, go for it. We know that Red Bull struggles in a straight line. There we go. That's got him a nice, comfortable 0.7 gap. And he's closing on Perez as well. That didn't do his engine any good. Engine not looking good for Leclerc either. So let's go to medium now. He has got 94% charge here. 2 laps to go. So the tyres are going to hold out. Will his engine? Will his engine? That's the thing. Right, let's use that boost now and get the biggest gap we can. And then if we have to back off, we'll back off for the final lap. Just to try and get him round. Because the engine is not looking good. Right, let's go to low and let's go to conserve. On this final lap, he's got a 5-second advantage on our. Vettel is still stuck behind the Williams, so a podium is definitely on here. Right, Kevin Magnussen, what can we do on this final lap? Not much. He's got plenty of tyres so we can push. Let's go to overtake mode. See if he can do anything about Perez. It's going to have to be the lap of his life if he wants to catch the Force India driver. But we'll give it a go. We'll give it a go. Right, let's go back down to 1 speed. Hamilton wins them from Bottas. And we are going to hold on for a famous podium for Charles Leclerc. A second podium from a Monegasque driver. I've got a feeling I said that wrong again. You know what? Let's not start this conversation. That's a great result. We'll take that. Kevin Magnussen comes over the line in P7. Another great result from him and some solid points for the team. I think the difference between the two drivers was just that first stint. As it turns out, being on the super softs really did help in that first stint, and we could make it to the end on the mediums. Obviously Magnussen ran the soft tyres and the mediums, so it was that first stint that Leclerc really had much better pace than K-Mag. But Magnussen still raced very well, and to beat both Red Bulls home is no easy feat. And 7th is a great finish for him, and a great team result all round them. And that could even keep us at the top end of the championship, although that's a very heavy points total for Mercedes, and I would expect them, with the extra points for first and second, to take back over the lead of the championship. But that's not a problem, because we're not going for a championship. We're definitely not going for a championship. But we will take that. Another bit of silverware for Haas. Their second podium of the season then, and second podium in their history. So some silverware. They can finally buy a trophy cabinet. I think 2 qualifies for a trophy cabinet, don't you, Jean? Yes, we're going to have one. Right, Leclerc actually goes above. It's Magnussen that drops from 2nd to 4th then, and Leclerc goes up to 2nd. Bottas retains the lead of the championship. Leclerc just 1 point ahead of Hamilton. Magnussen 5 points behind Hamilton in 4th, and 7 points ahead of Auer. Lucas Auer, that's a very good opening season from him. Lance Stroll has 12 points to his name. So, who is this Lucas Auer? He's doing very, very well. Oh, he's Austrian. That explains it. He's their next superstar, obviously. And the 2 Red Bulls struggling. Some good points for Vettel that time out. Some much needed points for Ferrari. But Raikkonen, obviously with another retirement, continues the struggles for the Scuderia. So yes, we do drop to 2nd place in the championship. That's to be expected. Mercedes are going to be incredibly difficult to fight this season. And as I say, I think our fight is with Williams, Red Bull and Force India, and probably a recovering Ferrari. I would expect our results to slowly get worse as the season goes on. So we've started brilliantly, and we've actually increased our advantage over Williams and Red Bull in that race. So everything looking hunky-dory. Ferrari recovered to 6th. McLaren's points, couple of points, get them off the bottom of the table then, and put Russian time to the bottom. So maybe McLaren revival coming in the coming races. But we will take that today. Good race, good strategy. The car is so much more raceable than last season. If you decide to do a strategy, the car can stick to it this year. That's the big difference, I think. And that tyre wear and tyre heating has just been a blessing. And I'm glad we put so much money into that, because it just means we can get the distance out of the tyres. And when people like Renault and Force India are really struggling to make the sort of one-stop strategies working and having to go with 2s, it means they just cannot keep up with us, because we don't lose any pace by going on one-stop, because our car's pretty quick as well. So all in all, really happy with how this car's turning out, and really happy with our results. And I've got to be honest, I think that is the case. I think the car we make at the beginning of the season is not reflected in those standings at all. And the fact that it says we have the worst car is not reflecting this chassis makeup, because we have pretty much the best car we could have. Again, I don't think that's reflected in here. This just takes it from a basic numbers rating from the parts. And while that's influential, and probably has an influence on the development of the car during the season, and whether you go up or down from your where your performance is. I think your base performance is based on the chassis makeup, and that grid doesn't show it. I think that's the case. Do let me know. It would be interesting to see what you guys think on that matter. But of course, keep your help and advice coming. That'll be it from today. Sorry it's been a little bit longer for this series to come back out. I've had a very busy week in terms of ORL stuff and live streams. We've got 2 more live streams to come over the weekend. The Endurance Series, Motorsport Manager, is going to be tomorrow. I'll tweet out when that is. I might do it in the afternoon rather than the evening, but I'll let people know on Twitter, so keep an eye over there. And then on Sunday, we've got another Rallycross event with me and Rage in ORL. That's round number 4 of the ORL Dirt Rally Championship, so tune in for that. And I think to make up for the little break in this, we'll make the Haas Career Mode the next episode next week rather than the Vanilla series. So you'll get another episode of this on Monday. I'll make sure that happens. Of course, if you haven't already, go and check out the gaming channel. After a very slow start to that channel's life, I've now got videos daily for probably the next 2 or 3 weeks backed up. So if you like non-racing stuff or any other types of games, then go over there. You might find something you enjoy. Of course, if you're new to this channel, you could like the video. That helps me out a lot. You can go back and watch the other Motorsport Manager stuff and subscribe as well. So as always, everybody, I hope you're well. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again next time.